So, Greg, I mean, I'm not sure if I need to tell you this, but some of your shirts are kind of crappy. I mean, you know,
What do you mean by crappy? They got a sweet little pocket right here.
I mean, they
That's
could be better. I mean, there's a place I know where it has lots of cool stuff. Uh,
yeah, but how cool?
we're talking about AAA cool. We're talking about shirts from 86.com. They're a pretty cool site. They sell all types of merchandise, including t-shirts, keychains, and other cool stuff that they sell on their site. And also have awesome video game material as well, such as Street Fighter, Killer Instinct, Guilty Gear, Skullgirls, BlazBlue, Smite, and 86's own brand of t-shirts as well as other stuff. Recently they put out some new keychains for Street Fighter 5. So yeah, there's some awesome stuff there. So I'm just suggesting, next time you go out and buy a shirt of any kind, I suggest check out 86.com. And if you want to support us and them at the same time, please use this link in your web browser to check out 86.com. Put in www.86.com !AFF equals 4. Again, www.86.com !AFF equals 4. This link will tell them that we sent you and that we're cool with them as long as you're cool with us. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Excuse me, this is Team Rocket territory.
F*** off! This territory belongs to the Hell's Archeuses now!
Hell's Archeuses? What's that?
We're a gang, shitbird.
A gang? But your name don't even have the word team in it. And you're not wearing matching outfits from Kanto Husky Boy uniforms.
That sounds like a softball team.
No, we're a serious gang. We're Team Rocket. This Meowth is our mascot.
Exactly. A softball team.
We're a gang that steals Pokemon.
That is so stupid. Why would you try to steal other people's Pokemons? There's Pokemons all f***ing over.
That patch of grass right there has literally infinite Pidgeys.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Rollin' 20s. We are the show that found out Octopimp is getting ready to cancel 50% off. 2017 is starting out great. I am Jeremy.
Steve. And Jesse.
Remember, you can subscribe to this show and several others in the MSP library at missionstarpodcast.com. You can like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and on Tumblr. Follow us on Twitter at the Rolling 20s. You can send us any fan mail, suggestions for the show, or hate mail at mspfreight@yahoo.com. The music you heard at the beginning of the show is by Machina Supremacy. You can find more of their discography for free download at machinasupremacy.com, as well as their latest few albums on amazon.com. The clip you heard is by Dorkly. It's called Why Stealing Pokemon Doesn't Make Any Sense. You can find more of their videos on youtube.com under their channel of Dorkly. Happy holidays!
Yeah. Yay. So why is he considering canceling it?
Low viewership in the second half of his first season. People have tapered off a bit, so he's saying it may not be worth the time, trouble, and expense to produce anymore, which makes me wonder where everybody went. But is what it is, 2016 decided to go out on a murder spree, I saw.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that a little bit in the news, obviously. But other than that, what'd you guys do for this long break we've been on?
I was sick for half of it.
Wow, to think, I saw you guys for part of it, too.
Yeah, I got sick right after that.
Oh, so you're saying it's my fault, then? I brought dog hair in with all your cats, and y'all freaked out, right?
You're the one that said it, not me. And he managed to get everybody else in the house sick, so...
Yeah. So Jesse's a sloppy kisser.
No, he just doesn't cover his mouth when he coughs.
While he kisses, I get it.
Then, no, I saw a bunch of family, and New Year's was spent playing Cards Against Humanity, sending us all to hell firmly, so...
Yeah, apparently I decided to race you all to hell. I spent New Year's Eve and New Year's Day at Disneyland and California Adventure, which wasn't near as bad as it could have been for a couple reasons. One, it actually rained on New Year's Eve in Los Angeles. So that meant a lot of the locals who were thinking about going to the park decided, oh, hell no. And then, New Year's Day, for some reason, well, I won't say for some reason, it's kind of quiet in the parks. I'm not going to say it's empty, but it seems like it's less people, and I have a feeling because it's New Year's Day and a lot of people are still drunk and hungover. So it was actually pretty chill on those days, and it seemed like a lot of people had fun. There's a few photos on my Facebook of a couple different encounters I had.
Yep.
I still download one of me from Face Mountain, but I think you saw the one that Jakarl posted. I knew the flash was coming, so I just put on my best wild face. And the best way I can describe is it looked like I'm staring down the tunnel of Space Mountain going, oh my god, Klansman! So, I'll see if I put that up later. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. And we got an email from Great American Comic Con thanking us for our support and our hard work.
Cool.
But I do kind of laugh a bit I did laugh a little bit when I saw that email that just said, thank you all for your hard work, because I was staring at it going, those bastards play video games. I had several conniption fits over a 2-day weekend, and you guys were playing Final Fantasy and straight.
It was time well spent.
Uh-huh. Starting off 2017 eating a big bag of penis, huh? The subject of this week is Saga, Volume 1 by Brian K. Vaughn. We'll get into that after we get through the news of the week, and we'll start off with Marvel Media News. That's where we talk about Marvel properties that are on screens of various kinds, as well as different books, all kinds of different media, everything but the comic book page. And the first news has to do with Doctor Strange.
Oh.
That movie has surpassed most of Marvel's single hero movies as far as overall box office, but keep in mind that that number could be inflated a little bit due to the advent of 3D technology, ticket prices rising, and things of that nature.
Mm.
But it turns out Doctor Strange will be released on home video this coming February.
Really?
That feels fast.
Mm.
It's going to have several deleted scenes and new footage added to it, including more of Chris Hemsworth as Thor, and more of Mark Anthony Bryant as Daniel Drum. Daniel Drum, for those that don't know, was the first Brother Voodoo in Marvel Comics. He was in the movie as the person that was safeguarding the New York sanctuary.
Mm.
So he was the person that died as Doctor Strange just kind of fell through that portal.
Mm-hmm.
The home video release for Doctor Strange will be February 14th on HD and digital. Then in physical media, February 28th, so the end of next month. There will also be some behind-the-scenes featurettes, a gag reel, audio commentary by Scott Derrickson, and probably the happiest news I've ever heard. Also included on this disc will be the Team Thor documentary.
Team Thor? Team Thor?
Yeah, don't you remember Thor, New Zealand? Daryl!
Oh, right. Team Thor.
Yes.
Okay. I could have sworn you said teen,
nope.
And I was
Team
like, wait,
Thor.
what? Okay.
You guys hear what you want to hear. Speaking of Thor, some new plot details have been released in regards to Thor Ragnarok, the upcoming film this November. Is it? Yeah, I believe it's this November. Wow.
Wow.
Thor Ragnarok, according to the new press release, is, quote, in Marvel Studios' Thor Ragnarok, Thor is imprisoned on the other side of the universe without his mighty hammer and finds himself in a race against time to get back to Asgard to stop Ragnarok, the destruction of his homeworld and the end of the Asgardian civilization, at the hands of an all-powerful new threat, the ruthless Hela. But first, he must survive a deadly gladiatorial contest that pits him against his former ally and fellow Avenger, the Incredible Hulk, unquote.
We're getting Planet Hulk in this? A little bit of Planet Hulk in this?
No, we are not getting anywhere near Planet Hulk in this. This is a hero-on-hero fight, which is turning into the standard bearer of comic books these days. If it was Planet Hulk, you would take over, and they've made it pretty clear, this is not Planet Hulk. Planet Hulk would take like 4, frankly. That would take a long time to tell. Meanwhile, another synopsis has been released for this coming May's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. According to this press release, quote, set to the all-new sonic backdrop of Awesome Mixtape number 2, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 continues the team's adventures as they traverse the outer reaches of the cosmos. The Guardians must fight to keep their newfound family together as they unravel the mystery of Peter Quill's true parentage. Old foes become new allies, and fan-favorite characters from the classic comics will come to our heroes' aid as the Marvel Cinematic Universe continues to expand. Unquote.
Obviously talking about Yondu and Mantis.
Talking about Ego, too.
Oh, right. Which they still have not shown in any of the teasers other than that one that you guys saw at SDCC.
Which is why I'm kind of surprised it hasn't come out yet, but there is still probably about 3.5 months for another trailer to come out. So I suspect there will be another one coming. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is due out May 5th. Thor Ragnarok is scheduled out November 3rd. It's going to be a busy year. As a matter of fact, Thor Ragnarok may have another major hero who has a bigger role than we assumed.
Who?
Well, according to D23, that's Disney's official fan club, quote, Thor Ragnarok in November brings together Thor, the Hulk, and Doctor Strange to face off against intergalactic baddies both familiar and new, unquote.
Okay, so that's what that Doctor Strange thing was at the end.
Well, we always assumed that he had an appearance because we saw that sign from the set of Thor Ragnarok where, or that picture, I should say, where Thor was holding up a card with Doctor Strange's address on it. But it appears it's not going to be just a simple appearance and he went that way cameo.
Right.
It looks like it's going to be a substantial role for Doctor Strange.
It'll be fun and interesting to see how that plays out.
Probably. But the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn, you know how I dislike how this man uses Twitter? He did it again. Oh, you don't understand. Usually it has to do with the Guardians. This has nothing to do with the Guardians. He mentioned another property. He released a tweet on January 4th, pretty recently, this past Wednesday. And he said, quote, "Oh my God, I love Moon Knight, and I have a great idea for a movie. I just wish I had the time. But no, he doesn't belong in Guardians," unquote.
No, he doesn't.
He quickly followed that up by saying he's way too busy to direct a Moon Knight movie, but he had pitched a concept to Marvel in the hopes of seeing it come together.
Maybe executive producer on it?
It could be. I mean, let me put it this way. Moon Knight could work both as a movie, depending on the story, or as one of the Netflix series.
I probably lean toward Netflix.
I think Netflix would be better for him just because it would take a while to explore the various neuroses Moon Knight possesses. He's probably the only hero that's crazier than Batman, frankly. How much do you guys know about Moon Knight and his problems?
Just what you've told us, and I forget most of it.
Mark Spector suffers from multiple personality disorder.
Okay.
There is Mark Spector, the suave playboy. There is Mark Spector, the mercenary. There's the Moon Knight, and there's some other personality in there that stays relatively quiet. All that seems to have calmed down to a certain degree, except now he's hearing voices. He no longer believes that he is the Knight of Khonshu. He thinks Khonshu is talking directly to him. Often.
Yeah, this usually involves a person being put into a padded room with a white jacket.
Yeah, but therein lies the question, though. Is he actually talking to a god? Because goodness knows, we've seen those tropes in and out of Marvel all the time. Or is he just insane?
I think the fun one would be if he's just insane.
That would be the fun one, but either one is likely. There was that short period where he actually developed super strength, depending on the phases of the moon. So I don't have a good answer. Further on in Marvel media, the Black Panther has added another actor to its list.
Who?
Sterling K. Brown. Last time he was seen in a major role, he was in The People vs. O.J. Simpson. He played one of O.J.'s defense team, I believe. He's going to play a character in Black Panther named N'Jobu, a character from the Black Panther's past. The reason why this is kind of remarkable, though, is because there is no current character in Marvel Comics named N'Jobu. It's unknown whether or not this was somebody deep in the Panther's history, or if this is some new character that's been made up specifically for the cinematic universe.
Or a red shirt.
Well, he's definitely not playing a Dora Milaje. That would be awkward. He'd have to shave. I have been watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This new season that involves Ghost Rider has been fairly interesting.
Yep.
However, it has been confirmed that there will be no more Ghost Rider. At least not in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Why is there no more Ghost Rider, do you think?
Story went off into a different direction. That usually happens with it.
According to Jed Whedon and Jeffrey Bell, who are producers on the show, they told TV Line that there were, quote-unquote, financial considerations to end Robbie's storyline. According to Jed Whedon, quote, he is trapped in another place, which usually means that he's not dead, unquote. So basically, it's way too damn expensive to have that flaming skull on the screen all the damn time.
And the car.
The car didn't help. I've seen the rig of what it takes to pretend to be Ghost Rider on the screen. It's wow. The only thing it doesn't do is actually light on fire. So it was just a plain cost issue, and I imagine costs in the second half of the season will be much lower since it seems like certain members of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are going to be replaced by LMDs.
Oh, fun!
Yeah, you didn't see the season finale or the end credit scene from the season finale?
I don't recall.
May's been replaced by Ada.
I think I missed an episode.
Okay, Ada is the first LMD that was developed by the doctor they've been contracting with. Yeah, at the end it's been revealed that somewhere around the time of May's heart attack, May was not put back in circulation with the agent. She was replaced by another frackin' LMD.
Huh.
So there's already a mole within S.H.I.E.L.D. Again. God, great spies. A new poster has been released for the upcoming release of Legion, the TV show based on the X-Men property, coming out February 8th on, bless you, Fox and FX. You know what? This is probably the closest I've seen this show come to my personal thoughts on the character. Take a look at this. It's psychotic. Literally looks like his brain is exploding.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Actually, under this format, his profile looks kind of like the classic comic book version of Legion with that tall coif he's got. I still don't know where this series is going, though. I've seen every promo, I've seen every trailer, and it is just a mystery as to what is actually happening in this show.
I forgot it was coming out so soon, though.
I know. That's, what, about 3 weeks away? I'm on the fence as to how much of it I'm going to watch. I'll probably watch at least the first 2 episodes for sure. It sounds like you just came at me with a kung fu move, bro. Bring it on. Let's see. Josh Boone is working hard on the New Mutants film. He had a recent interview with Creative Screenwriting. And he has an intention for the New Mutants that it won't be a movie. He wants 3 movies.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He said, quote, "After I made The Fault in Our Stars, we made a Fox comic book. It walked them through a trilogy of the New Mutant films that would build on each other. We used this program called Comic Life and took all the images we had loved from the series and strung them together to show them the movie we wanted to do. We brought it to Simon Kinberg and he really liked it. We've been going for the past 1.5 years to get it ready, and I'm about to go to location to scout, and we have a release date now," unquote. Boone specifically explained that the New Mutants arc he's talking about is called the Demon Bear Saga. It was a New Mutants story by Chris Claremont and Bill Sienkiewicz. He didn't disclose what specifically he had pitched for the New Mutants trilogy. I still don't have a firm release date up yet. Obviously, it was one of the unannounced Fox Marvel properties that they've been working on. I still wonder a little bit about the specific cast in this story. Because as much as we think we know what the New Mutants are, we keep forgetting that there have been a few offshoot squads that have had different members on it. If you recall, characters like Skids, Rusty Collins, Richter. Yeah. So I would like to know which lineup we're going to see. And last up in Marvel media news, Ryan Reynolds is trying to bring someone out of retirement.
Who?
He told Variety recently, quote, "I would love to play Deadpool for as long as they would let me play Deadpool. We have outlines and stories from a number of different films. I have no idea if I can change Hugh Jackman's mind about a team-up.
Hey.
It's the audience. I would exclusively exploit that relationship to get Hugh back for another one, unquote. Jackman has been recently resistant to the idea of ever putting on the claws again. However, he has softened his language to say that he might contemplate it. I don't know if it's in response to Ryan Reynolds or whether or not he's still holding out for that one-on-one he wants with Chris Evans. What would you think of a Logan-Deadpool team-up movie?
It would be bloody.
It could be PG-13. Wouldn't have to be bloody.
Yeah, they could comically do it off screen.
Well, I already said my whole thoughts on the PG-13 Deadpool thing. You know, just censor bars. Yeah.
I'm eagerly awaiting Deadpool to be released to network TV because I would love to see what that cut of the film looks like. Not saying it's going to be better, but I want to see what makes it through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now we have DC Media News. We talk about the other major property and their copyrighted characters coming to screens near you in the near future. The Justice League film has 2 more characters reprising their roles for the upcoming movie. According to recent reports, Jesse Eisenberg will return as Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently you're not excited about that news. But it's also been reported that Connie Nielsen will reprise her role as Queen Hippolyta for the film. Connie Nielsen was cast for the Wonder Woman film originally as Queen Hippolyta. There was also a new synopsis that was released while we were on break. It says, quote, "Fueled by his restored faith in humanity and inspired by Superman's selfless act, Bruce Wayne enlists the help of his newfound ally, Diana Prince, to face an even greater enemy. Together, Batman and Wonder Woman work quickly to find and recruit a team of metahumans to stand against this newly awakened threat. But despite the formation of this unprecedented League of Heroes, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, and The Flash, it may already be too late to save the planet from an assault of catastrophic proportions," unquote.
So it sounds like they're going ahead with Doomsday. Or
Steppenwolf.
Darkseid. Oh, Steppenwolf. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, if you recall, Steppenwolf is supposed to be the villain of this film. They're not going directly to Darkseid. Maybe that's going to be in part 2 of whatever they're planning. That's assuming part 2 isn't eternally shoved behind other films. I'm still kind of surprised they decided to delay part 2 so they could do the solo Batman film. And I don't stay surprised by the fact that, they actually made the move because a solo Batman film would be smarter, but goodness knows, it seems like Warner Brothers, when they announce something, they stick to it tooth and claw until they exhaust all options.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, the Justice League film is scheduled for North American theaters on November 17th, 2017. Comes out right after Thor Ragnarok.
Huh.
I wonder if they finished filming already. I have not heard about their shooting schedule. But if you're looking for someone to despise, it turns out that Zack Snyder made a cameo in Batman v Superman.
He did? Where?
That's the odd part. According to cinematographer Larry Fong, he was answering questions on Twitter, and he said that Zack Snyder made the cameo playing Bruce Wayne's hands in the part of the movie where Bruce goes to watch a fight club to track down the white Portuguese.
Just his hands?
Just his hands.
Okay.
I don't even remember that scene.
Wasn't a very memorable scene. It was relatively early on in the film, in the first third of it, when Bruce Wayne was trying to track down details on this white Portuguese, which turned out to be a boat, if I remember correctly.
Mm.
That's when he was looking for that sleepy-eyed guy that was Lex Luthor's chief lieutenant through the film. I know. It was about that memorable for me, too.
Yeah, I'm still drawing a blank.
Well, this is news that I don't think is good for what Warner Brothers is trying to do. There is a situation where Ben Affleck may not direct the Batman film.
What?
Hey?
He told The Guardian, and this is his words, quote, "That's the idea, but it's not a set thing, and there's no script. If it doesn't come together in a way I think is really great, I'm not going to do it," unquote.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if they're moving the Batman up to take the place of the Justice League sequel, which, if memory serves, was supposed to come out in 2019, shouldn't this be a top priority?
Yeah. Yeah, you would think they would have a script already.
Well, Batman is not one of my favorite characters, but he's probably, technically, the one that you're least likely to screw up. Doesn't require a massive amount of effects work, doesn't require a whole lot of unbelievable stuff, within moderation anyway. And it's a much more straightforward premise than, Superman, Aquaman, or even The Flash. Shouldn't this be a priority?
Yeah.
Especially since that Ben Affleck technically was like the number 2 rated thing in the entirety of Batman v Superman.
Mm-hmm.
There's still no release date yet that's been permanently set for the Batman film. And this scared the hell out of me. This was very close to... And this came out not long before our break, via story on IO9 and Catherine Trendacosta on December 23rd. There was an interview with Charles Roven with The Hollywood Reporter. Charles Roven, he is the producer of all of DC's films within Warner Brothers thus far, so he has a pretty important role, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
He's not exactly like Kevin Feige as far as overall say, but he gets things done behind the scenes. He's important. In the middle of this interview, the Hollywood Reporter person asked him about why he will be stepping back from the DC Extended Universe. His basic answer was that it's too hard schedule-wise, but he also talked about the schedule that Warner Bros. Insists on keeping to. Listen to this very carefully. Quote, "The studio made me the producer of all of the DC movies, and they announced 8. When we finished the timetable, we looked at each other and said, this is incredibly ambitious, but we haven't taken into consideration if something goes wrong. We also hadn't decided where we were going to shoot these movies. As difficult as it was for me to commute from Toronto to London to Italy, it became really clear I couldn't do the job I do as a producer with Aquaman likely to shoot in Australia. I'm for sure producing the sequels of the movies that I have made," unquote. It frightens me in the middle of his answer there. He said that there is no plan for what if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And as much money as Warner Brothers has made on DC films, and they have made a lot of money, they still don't seem to have much of a plan as to what to do when these movies are not well received. We've seen their shock and reschedule after Batman v Superman didn't do as great as it was supposed to. Shoot, we saw that shock in what they did in reshoots in the Suicide Squad and tried to make 3 movies out of 1.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what happens if Wonder Woman doesn't come through critically either? I think it's going to come through monetarily. It's the first major superhero movie featuring a woman. But if it's not well received, how many times are people going to keep going back to the theater on faith?
Or just hope.
Basically, just because a movie made $700 million doesn't mean people haven't seen it 3, 4, 5 times. So, gosh. I don't know what else to add to that. I'm worried.
Yeah.
I've made it clear I'm not a fan of DC properties, but, I do think that the stories, if they're well told, can be really compelling. I'm a big fan of Batman Begins, not so much The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises. But so far, post Christopher Nolan, I have not been wowed by a single DC movie yet, and that bothers me.
Mm.
As a matter of fact, I watched The Suicide Squad on Christmas Day.
Oh. Yeah, I watched it with you. Really changed my opinion about it.
I changed your opinion?
Well, rewatching it is like, oh, wait, it's worse than I remembered.
Yeah, Steve, have you seen the film yet?
No, I have not.
Dear God, don't. My final review of the film, I guess my shorthand review, is that it makes Batman v Superman look like Shakespeare.
Oh my God.
It is a really bad film, and I mean, the performances are pretty wooden for 90% of the film. Margot Robbie's probably the only one who really understood her character at all, and she was stuck in a film with 7 other characters, right. So go figure. Will Smith, he played Will Smith very well. Wasn't much of an assassin, in my opinion. Doesn't seem to know how a gun works, which is really funny considering how many movies he's been in with guns. The rest of the characters, disposable. Entirely disposable. With the exception of the guy who played Rick Flag. And I don't know why they called him Rick Flag. They should have called him Captain Exposition. He explained anything and everything in the movie.
You give him that name, then they're never going to find his character on the internet.
It was I sat there and I chuckled once during the film. Not laughed, chuckled. The rest of the time, I remember just kind of staring there, and Jesse was taking measurements of my face. I'm glad he didn't have, like, a cell phone camera up, because I'm sure it was a whole bunch of snarls and confused expressions.
No, I was just realizing, wow, was it really this bad when I first watched it, or did I just turn my brain off?
It's a crap film. That scene where Harley Quinn is in the elevator fighting one of the eyes of the adversary by herself looked pretty credible, but she was in an elevator, and somehow the rest of the Suicide Squad beat the elevator to like the 18th floor, judging by how long she was in this thing. And then when the doors open was when everyone picked up their weapons and pointed at the door. So they're not ready. They're standing there in different positions, but they're not ready by the time the doors open. So they have superhuman speed, but apparently very slow in thought process.
And then the movie's hatred for helicopters and how people miraculously survive their crashes.
A lot of helicopter crashes, a lot of people walking away from them. Like, clean, walking away. Not even dirty, I never thought I'd see a movie that would make Call of Duty look realistic. But there it is. There's been a new image that has actually been released from the Wonder Woman film via Entertainment Weekly that is of Diana, probably still on Themyscira, pulling the God-Killer sword.
God-Killer sword.
Yeah, I have not heard of this before, but granted, my knowledge of Wonder Woman mythology is pretty weak. You can take a look at this. It appears to be the handle of the sword she has down the back of her dress during that first trailer that was released. Take a good look at that sword pommel and hilt.
That's an interesting straight sword.
Not exactly Mediterranean or Grecian.
Oh, it might be a super stylized Gladys.
Yeah, Gladiuses were broader and shorter, I thought.
Definitely shorter, but I think it's about the width's about right.
Okay. My only question, frankly, from looking at the still is, I would like to know what the context is, because for something that sounds as dangerous as God-Killer sword, there doesn't appear to be anybody watching this thing.
Actually, as I remember, when she was pulling the sword, her mother was behind her.
Okay. Like I said, I need to know the context. From this one image, it looks like a very important weapon. It was left conveniently unguarded.
Well, it is within DC lore, apparently.
Leaving things unguarded?
No, it is an item within the lore.
Okay. Like I said, I'm waiting on context, because goodness knows, at least, Odin spared 2 guys to guard the vault full of cosmic treasures. The DCW is getting a new star. George Lucas.
Oh! Really?
Yes. Not in the way you're probably thinking. They're going to feature a younger version of the director as a character in an upcoming episode of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, the time travel show. According to Entertainment Weekly, quote, because of circumstances, the time aberration in episode 209 is George Lucas quits film school. As a result, he never makes Star Wars or Raiders of the Lost Ark. As a result, Ray, who became an engineer because of Star Wars, and Nate, who became a historian because of Raiders, slowly start to lose their brilliance because those things that inspired them to become who they are didn't exist, unquote.
Sounds interesting, but I can almost write the script myself.
Can't you, though? Grim actor Matt Angel will portray a young George Lucas as a film student. I know who Ray is. That's the Atom in the show. Who's Nate?
I don't know. I don't actually watch the show.
Okay. I was hoping somebody could help me out there, but that's okay. So the mission of the team is to go back in time and convince George Lucas to remain in film school. It's supposed to air on January 24th on the CW. This is one of those things that just by reading the description is either going to be massively entertaining or a huge head slapper. I know my opinion of the show, but individual episodes sometimes do better than others. I'm just going to sit on my opinions right now. Supposedly, according to Jeff Johns, who's one of the chief creative officers right now in Warner Brothers' entertainment leg, as well as DC's entertainment president, he says that a new DC television show is imminent.
Who?
That's the question. He released a tweet on December 31st, quote, "More DC TV. Flash, Arrow, Gotham, Legends of Tomorrow, Lucifer on Fox, the CW Supergirl, and many more. Which one will be announced soon?" Unquote. There has been no follow-up since then, although it's only been a week.
So they're turning one of those shows into a comic?
No, what he's saying is, in addition to all these DC shows they have already, supposedly there's something else coming.
Powerless?
I hope that's not what he means. Because I watched the promo of the retooled Powerless now that they've changed it to a, what was it, from an office comedy in an insurance company to an office comedy in Wayne Enterprises Research and Development.
That is like, I don't know, Disney XD level.
It is pretty dry. I seriously hope that's not what he's referring to. I'm hoping there's something else decent coming. But last up in DC media news, Kevin Smith gets to introduce Batman.
What?
Kevin Smith gets to introduce Batman. To the Goldbergs. The Goldbergs is a comedy sitcom on ABC that focuses on a Jewish family in the 80s. And in the episodes that Kevin Smith is going to direct, some of the family is excited because on June 23rd, 1989, was when Michael Keaton's Batman movie came out. Quote, "I grew up watching the Adam West Batman, and I was in a sold-out movie theater for Tim Burton's Batman on opening day, June 23rd, 1989. So I can't wait to recreate those early eras of Batamania in the Goldbergs universe. Luckily, the funny folks in front and behind of the cameras who make this hysterical show every week will be doing all the heavy lifting in our time travel experiment," unquote. Man, they are really... It seems like Warner Brothers is really enjoying using Kevin Smith for like anything related to DC Comics. At least as far as
the product. People will respect and are borrowing him in order to try and make good stuff.
He's the one that says he has barely anything to do with it, but what he does seem to do is bring like creative energy. He's actually upbeat. Some people on his time with the Flash have described that at least they finally have somebody who understands the material working on the show. I think they mean comic books. I don't think they mean like working in television. It's nice to know that after all this time, he's finally found a niche where he's not just the fat guy to everybody.
I don't think he has a problem with that.
Not anymore. He's lost weight. Now we have general media news. That's where we talk about geeky properties that are not Marvel and DC related, but still matter to nerds all over this planet. Unfortunately, the first piece of news, we have to deal with something a little bit sad, but it's important because towards the end of 2016, we had a scare where Carrie Fisher had a huge heart attack while she was on a plane from London to LA. Just when it looked like she was going to stabilize the Grim Reaper, decided to pull a head fake by killing George Michael, and then doubling back and then killing Carrie Fisher anyway.
And her mother.
Well, that was a day later.
Still before the New Year.
Yeah. She unfortunately... Carrie Fisher did unfortunately pass away on, I believe it was December 27th in the morning as a result of that heart attack. She never came out of... or she never regained consciousness from the heart attack she suffered on December 24th. She was born on October 21st, 1956, to a Jewish nightclub singer named Eddie Fisher and actress Debbie Reynolds, who did die just after her. I don't want to say better or more interesting news, but as part of the news, it turns out she had already finished filming all of her scenes for Star Wars Episode 8.
Yes, and apparently I heard that she had a critical role in Episode 9, and now the studio is debating what to do with it.
They're not debating. They are actually they actually had a round table with options that they're currently considering, which includes scaling back the role or using a CGI stand-in similar to what they did with Rogue One.
I don't like that second option.
So, Rogue One is the roadmap. Star Wars Episode 9 is currently scheduled for release May 23rd, 2019. Carrie Fisher is getting an in-story tribute via the Star Wars comic book title. Charles Soule tweeted out that he's changing an upcoming scene in Star Wars Poe Dameron in honor of Carrie Fisher. According to him, quote, "There's a funeral in Poe Dameron number 14, and Leia's present, writing that scene today. Wasn't originally about her, but now it will be," unquote. So, you know, I actually had a little bit of an issue with... I understand that people were sad that she passed. I got a little bit twitchy because everybody referred to her as either General Organa or Princess Leia. And the woman worked in Hollywood for damn near 40 years. That's not the only thing she did. She was a better writer than she was an actress. You know, she wrote an entire screenplay about her own life.
She did?
Yeah, the movie Postcards from the Edge. It was Oscar nominated. She wrote that based on her life post doing Empire Strikes Back. You know, including all the personal turbulations and drug overdoses and awful things that happened to her. And when she submitted it, and they were turning it into a movie, the producers actually asked her, "Hey, you wrote it. Do you want to star in this? You know everything about it." And she apparently looked at the producer and said, "I already lived it. Why would I want to star in it?"
True words.
How many people can honestly say that they got to see their own autobiography played by Meryl Streep? Freakish, isn't it? But in other news, Woody Harrelson is in talks for a major Star Wars role right at this point. Supposedly he's in talks to play the unnamed mentor of a young Han Solo in the Han Solo spin-off film upcoming. The film itself is still untitled. All we know at this point is that it stars Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo, Donald Glover as a young Lando Calrissian, and Emilia Clarke in an unnamed role. She's probably young Chewbacca.
So, is he supposed to be, a smuggler that taught him how to be a smuggler, or an Imperial officer?
It just says mentor. What else am I supposed to tell you? You know, fine, this was a man who taught Han Solo how to be a gigolo. Is that what you want to hear?
No, I'm just asking questions.
So, first thing you need to do is take the butt plug and lube it up really well. We do have news that is Star Trek related, however, it is not good news. Remember we've been talking on and off about the independent solo venture that somebody was writing, Star Trek Axanar.
Yeah.
The film may have just been hamstrung permanently.
Oh?
Yeah, last time we talked about it, there was a lawsuit that CBS put out to try and make them cease and desist, saying it was too close to their copyrighted properties.
Right.
Supposedly, J.J. Abrams and Justin Lin, directors of 2 different Star Trek films recently, had convinced CBS and Paramount to settle the lawsuit. Turns out they have not. Axanar's only viable defense at this point is claiming that their movie is set as a prequel to the original series, which is covered under fair use. And a judge heard that defense this week and said, no, it's not. The judge threw out their entire defense. Even though the movie is technically a non-profit venture, the judge ruled that the movie relies too much on copyright-protected material. And in order to survive, Axanar Productions will have to prove to a jury that Axanar does not bear any significant resemblance to Star Trek properties, which is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Since it relies heavily on Star Trek lore to create a coherent story within the universe. The other problem is that if Axanar fails, there's probably a lot of other Star Trek independent movies and shows out there that will probably be forced under the bus as well. Not good news.
Nope.
Now then, I need to bounce backwards in Star Trek for just a minute, because there was a list on IO9 that they apparently went through the Rogue One Ultimate Visual Guide. It was written by Lucasfilm Story Group executive and master of their internal canon, Pablo Hidalgo. Would you like to know some of the more interesting yet screwed up things they found out in this handbook?
Shoot.
Okay. Usual rules apply. I will read the headlines. Tell me if you need information. Number 1 is that Cassian Andor was a Fulcrum agent.
Who?
Fulcrum was something that's been introduced in Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, no, I know it's Fulcrum. Who was the character?
Cassian Andor.
Who's that one?
The smooth-talking, intelligent agent in Rogue One.
Right, I don't recall any of their names except for Jin.
The guy that was going to assassinate her father.
Yeah, now I remember.
Jeez, man, you just don't lock on the details, do you?
A lot of the characters didn't stand out to me.
Okay, well, it turns out that Fulcrum is not just the name of their agents, it's the name of their entire intelligence agency. So Cassian Andor has been a Fulcrum agent prior to his appearance in Rogue One. Let's see. There's a reason why you don't see U-Wings after Rogue One. It turns out that the ship was manufactured by the same manufacturer that created the X-Wings for the Imperial Navy, and it was a last starfighter release before the manufacturer was nationalized by the Empire. There was a limited production run, and Bail Organa managed to snag a few of them and donated them to the Alliance. It's very likely that after Rogue One, all of the available U-Wings were destroyed. Obviously, in Rogue One, we found out there is more religions based on the Force than simply Jedis and Sith.
Yeah.
You know, we found out about characters like Chirrut and Baze, who were members of the Church of the Force. How about this? The Mon Calamari fleet? It's made up of buildings.
Really?
Yeah. Quote, we don't know much of how the Imperial occupation led to mass defections of Mon Calamari to the Alliance Navy, but Rogue One's visual guide offers an intriguing hint as to how the aquatic race gifted a significant amount of capital ships to the Alliance so quickly. The Mon Calamari fleets are actually bits of Mon Calamari cities. Preparing for the worst with the rise of the Empire, several Mon Calamari cities jettisoned buildings into deep space that had actually been converted into transports containing thousands of Mon Calamari refugees. Hidden away from the Imperials, the Mon Calamari retweaked the transport buildings into armed capital ships, joining the Alliance to form a major part of their fleet. Fun fact, Admiral Raddus' ship in Rogue One, named the Profundity, was originally the civic governance tower of the northern Mon Calamari city Nystulum, and Raddus was actually the city's mayor before joining the Alliance. Brings a whole new meaning to Admiral Akbar's flagship being called Home One, doesn't it? Unquote.
Yeah.
Let's see, there was ways that the Empire kept the Death Star's construction secret, including wiping out all Geonosians.
Okay.
Actually sterilized the whole planet.
Last.
How Death Troopers got their name. The Black Troopers from Rogue One that were never apparently seen again. Quote, Rogue One prides itself on being a darker take on a galaxy far, far away, a more realistic, gritty world where the line between the brave rebel hero and bloody terrorists are blurred. That darker ethos also carries into some of the amazingly metal background information in the visual guide, leading up to some truly messed up bits of scenery setting. Two favorites of mine? The first is the Death Troopers, earned their sinister name from a rumored project in Krennic's Advanced Weapons Research Division, supposedly designed about reviving necrotic flesh to fight for the Empire. Space zombies! Unquote.
Really? Wow.
That would also explain why they barely spoke. I don't really remember them speaking throughout the film. But the other part that this guy was excited about, but was also freaky, the most messed up cyborgs in the galaxy. Quote, the second insane reveal from the Rogue One visual guide is of the Decraniated, a cast of cyborgs on Jedha that serve a variety of roles on the planet, gruesomely created out of horrendously wounded people who are stripped of their individuality during the surgical process, which also leaves them with most of their heads missing. It's freaky as hell, unquote.
Sounds like a bit of Warhammer stuff right there.
You want to see...
Shoot.
It's pretty close to horrific, even though it's not gory. Take a look at this, because it's basically a cyborg whose head only exists from the bridge of the nose down.
That's interesting.
I would be uncomfortable with that slogging around my house. There'd probably be little squealing noises all over the place. Now, this is news that has me both excited and extremely worried. Guess who's getting their own cinematic universe?
Surprise me.
Extreme Studios.
Extreme Studios?
Yes. It's owned by a certain man who's created several characters, including Bloodstrike, Cybrid, Kaboom, Bloodwolf, Rejects, Brigade, Lethal, and Nitrogen. Anything?
I'm pretty sure I know who that is, but
I've already looked it up.
Rob Liefeld, according to The Wrap, is working with Akiva Goldsman, Brooklyn Weaver, and Graham King to create an extreme cinematic universe. According to the press release by Liefeld, quote, "Over the past nearly 25 years since launching Image Comics, I've been lucky enough to see the power of these stories and characters as they've resonated with several generations of comic book fans. Now to be able to work with Akiva Goldsman and Graham King, who are powerhouses in their own right, to bring these compelling characters and conflicts to life on the big screen is nothing short of a dream come true," unquote. Fundamental Films apparently is also signed up for this. They're one of China's biggest film companies. I really don't know how to feel about this. Because there's a certain part of my heart where I remember Youngblood and Brigade pretty fondly. However, I know how Rob Liefeld works. And
Weak ankles.
baby hands, actually. Maybe he created Trumpism, but who knows. However, it's just a case of I think my memories are really danced up. I have a feeling that none of these stories are quite as good as I remember. Does that make sense? So,
could be.
You know, the bases of these characters could actually make for some pretty good films, but it's one of those cases where it has to be like Anne Rice. He has to know where to let go to let people make a decent movie instead of sticking directly to the source material.
Because I'm kind of looking at some of these covers, and I'm afraid this might scream like 90s, like all the way through.
Well, he's created some really interesting characters. It's just a matter of whether or not the creators took them in really good directions. Some did better than others. You know, it's like Supreme wasn't that great of a book till Warren Ellis got on it and really made it a kind of psychosocial construct. You know, however, Youngblood, it was a concept that was ahead of its time when you have superheroes who are like reality stars. But he brought it out in the 90s, way before we had a concept of what reality stars were. So, he has to find the right people to have to helm this. If he doesn't, it's going to be a disaster. Actually, I've seen the first good design that I like from the Power Rangers film.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Unfortunately, it's of something we will probably see the least. Putty Patrollers.
Oh.
Remember the faceless minions Rita Repulsa had all over the place?
Yeah.
Their version of what those look like, they don't look like people in spandex suits anymore. They actually look like walking bits of concrete and, unfinished resin. They actually look kind of fearsome.
So they're going for more brute force with these things.
Seems that way. And I'm sure that the Rangers, once they're fully formed, are going to mow through these things in mass. But it's just, to me, this is the best design they've come up with so far.
I'll be honest, I think it's this Gold Art seems to stem from this idea, which is why he looks so damn horrible.
I'm not going to speak on that because I already seen how bad that is. Like I said, this is the first design I've seen that actually looks good to me. Looks like they put thought into it for once.
So the Power Rangers are going to fight just copies of Clayface then?
Yeah. I could think of worse things to do.
Well, putties were always those things.
Let's see. Thor from IDW is going to be part of a new merchandise partnership. It turns out there is a version of the God of Thunder in IDW Comics from Walt Simonson, and they're going to create a 1/6 scale Ragnarok figures based on the award-winning comics. This is part of the IDW licensee's recent signing. Ragnarok has been praised as one of the best comics currently running, earning a spot on CBR's Top 100 of 2015. According to Walter Simonson, quote, "I couldn't be more excited to see Ragnarok Thor in person. It's going to make drawing that guy a whole lot easier. 2 thumbs up," unquote. His design of Thor is, what's the right way to put this? It's what it would look like if he was, if you crossed him with Skeletor and Triple H.
Huh.
I just sent you guys an image of the Walt Simonson version of Thor, and it's pretty metal.
Oh, wow.
The image of that backhand he's doing through someone's head with Mjolnir is vicious.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, like, Darksiders.
Actually, I'm thinking Skeleton Warriors.
Yeah, with that red jewel in the chest. Yeah, I can see that.
Well, at least it's not Jason the Wheeled Warriors. From there, we will move on to Marvel comic news. That's where we talk about the Marvel properties that are headed for the comic book pages now and in the near future. Marvel has an interesting move upcoming. They're giving retailers an extra 10% of their January order.
What?
In other words, if a retailer ordered 20 copies of a book, they're going to get 22.
Oh, okay.
This is a purposeful plan to overship all of its January titles by 10% for free. This gives retailers extra copies of books for a profit of full cover price per issue. This does have the question, though, that what will this do to the appearance of January sales? According to Diamond's Michael Mochio, quote, "When publishers ship extra books to retailers at no charge, which is done by more than Marvel, we'll add it to the unit share of the charts, but not the dollar share." So in other words, Marvel will get to have extra units on its covers, but they won't get credit for how much they sell. Apparently, overshipping is a pretty common practice in North America. Never heard of that before. Hey, I learned today. And we all know that as fans of Marvel, there's an event going. There's an event at Civil War II. There's an event coming very soon, Monsters Unleashed. There's another event that just started, Inhumans vs. X-Men. There's already another event on the horizon. They're calling it Secret Empire.
Secret Empire?
Yeah, I will send you guys the image of the promo page that Marvel released just this week, and I bet you can guess which character is at the center of it, him and his little butt. According to that shield, Steve Rogers is at the center of it.
Okay, well that kind of makes sense then.
You knew this Hail Hydra thing could only go so far before somebody discovered it.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess the question I have right now is, who's going to be the opposition? The Avengers have to be involved in some capacity, but is it the Avengers by themselves, or do they have to enlist people who know Steve Rogers best, like the Red Skull and Baron Zemo, to undo him?
That would be fascinating.
Wouldn't it, though? Because we've seen that Steve Rogers' main goal right now is to unseat the Red Skull, who has never taken such actions well.
Yeah.
So I guess I just want to know who right now is going to be opposing Steve Rogers. Although, considering they're calling it Secret Empire, I'm going to guess that my prediction that he's going to end up running S.H.I.E.L.D. is very likely to become true. Speaking of Steve Rogers, the next 5 issues of Captain America Steve Rogers, numbers 8 through 12, have been shuffled in release order for some reason. There's a number of stories I could tell you that are upcoming. However, for the sake of previews and time, I'm not going to get into all that. What I will tell you is that, yes, issues 8 through 12 are going to be released in a different order than originally solicited, and the stories are being changed all around. The trial of Maria Hill has been delayed a little bit. The further work with the new Quasar, Avril Kincaid, has been moved up. The reveal of Baron Zemo and the potential Masters of Evil has been moved back. Or, I'm sorry, moved up slightly. Now at the end of it all, in issue 12, apparently, the Taskmaster has figured out Steve Rogers' biggest secret right now. We saw him when we read Steve Rogers. He started to figure out something was wrong.
So, it's a matter of now, what does he do with this information? Does he work with Rogers, or does he sell him out?
Therein lies the question. As a matter of fact, another event has been teased in recent Marvel comics. The U.S. Avengers, issue 1 came out. And they have a Captain America that came back from the future, Danielle Cage. Both she and the final pages of the issue alluded to some event that she would like to avoid called Zero Day. Now, I'm a little unclear as to what Zero Day is, because I saw images at the end of that issue. However, Marvel released a few preview images of what Zero Day is all about, and apparently it involves Thanos once again killing half, if not all, of the Marvel Universe. Which he's done before in at least the Infinity Gauntlet, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here is an image that was released from the preview, supposedly, of Zero Day, of Thanos holding up Steve Rogers' skull, which is frightening in and of itself.
Yeah.
However, that's not what scared me. Look at his gauntlets.
Yeah, there's 2 Infinity Gauntlets.
Those aren't Infinity Gauntlets.
What are they?
Those aren't gems. The gems are round, if you recall. He's got these square things jammed in his gloves, which, if I'm guessing correct, he has cosmic cubes in his hand.
Oh, dear God. He's going to punch you out of reality. He's got
and not just a single cosmic cube. Yeah, there are 6 cosmic cubes per glove. That's... I don't even know where to start with that, because if that's what he had during Zero Day, I can't think of anything that could stop him short of the Living Tribunal, frankly. If you have anything to add, I'll listen to it, but I don't know what could stop him if he has that many cosmic cubes.
That's just frightening.
I think this might be a quest to find the other cosmic cubes since Secret Wars?
He's been looking for cosmic cubes for a while. Thanos is always looking for that one object that will allow him to annihilate the universe, be it the Infinity Gauntlet, cosmic cubes, or something similar.
More like it seems like it's going to be a quest to help hinder his power by finding these objects.
Not hinder. He's looking to augment.
No, for the heroes.
Oh. I've never seen that many cosmic cubes in one story before. The most I've ever seen is 2.
Yeah, but...
So I don't know if that's one cosmic cube segmented, or if that's several cubes put together.
Wait, wasn't the cosmic cube shattered?
No, the Red Skull's cosmic cube has been shattered. There's more than one cosmic cube.
Well,
they can be manufactured, but it's extremely difficult to do so.
Uh-huh. Wonderful.
All I can imagine, though, is Thanos with those things set in his knuckles. When he says, "Feel my power," he means it when he punches you in the damn head. Marvel is also overhauling digital redemption codes in comic books. When you buy a print comic book, it often has a code in it for a free digital copy of the same book.
Okay.
As of February 2017, when you redeem those codes, not only will you get a copy digitally of the same comic book you just bought print, but they'll also add a random free comic book issue of another series.
Well, that's fun.
According to David Gabriel, Marvel's SVP of Sales, quote, "Marvel is continuing our commitment by offering our fans the best value in comics, along with honoring our cornerstone of the comic book industry, the retailers. Our intent in evolving our digital code program is to offer our fans more value per dollar spent. Replacing the free digital copy, our bonus digital comics will offer fans free entry points for current on-sale collected editions and, in turn, invite additional and repeat traffic into our trusted retailers," unquote. The digital comics available during the first week of February are Civil War 0, Wolverine 66, the first issue of Old Man Logan, and Captain Marvel #1.
Seem like good.
That's pretty awesome.
Seem like good choices.
Yeah. Guess who's getting his own ongoing series for the first time ever?
Who?
Nick Fury.
Huh.
But I'm sure people are saying he's already had a number of series.
Yeah, but that guy was white,
not his own.
Yeah, this is Nick Fury's son, Nick Fury Jr.
Okay.
And yes, this is the black Nick Fury. You didn't know that, did you? The two are genetically related. Father and son.
Oh.
You thought it was going to be more complicated than that?
Surprisingly, yes.
Nope. It's going to be written by James Robinson. The artist is ACO. He's going to bring back the psychedelic sensibility of the solo adventures of the 60s. Also joining Nick Fury in this series is Frankie Noble, who is his counterpart in Hydra. They're going to have cat and mouse adventures that take place over short arcs, channeling the style and energy of the original Nick Fury series, more memorable adventures.
Interesting.
Wow, so it's not just going to be Nick Fury, it's going to be Nick Fury and a nemesis. Actually sounds kind of interesting.
That actually sounds like a really good move.
Well, this is not good news for a series, when before the first issue even comes out, they're changing artists. February 1st was supposed to be the debut of the new Elektra series. That's Elektra in a costume that looks very similar to her Defenders look from the Netflix show. Alec Morgan was originally solicited to be drawing the first issue, and he's been replaced by Juan Cabal, according to a notice sent to retailers from the publisher itself. Morgan is already working on an unsolicited backup story for Bullseye #1 with Bullseye's co-creator Marv Wolfman. I wonder why this change was necessary. Maybe Morgan just heard, "Hey, Marv Wolfman wants your attention." Oh, and he just drops everything. I wish I knew why that was changing so quickly.
No idea.
Apparently, Cabal was supposed to be drawing the series with issue #2, so I guess the change isn't that radical. He just had to add #1 to his workload. Speaking of the Bullseye series, this is also being released in February, a 5-issue limited series from Ed Brisson and Guillermo Sana. The solicit reads, quote, "He's been out of commission for a while, but it's time to show the world that they should still fear Bullseye. He's beaten Daredevil, Elektra, the Punisher, and more. But that was just business. This is for pleasure. So what does the world's greatest assassin do for fun? From the mean streets of New York City to the jungles of South America, Bullseye is going to do what he does best. Hit the targets and make sure they don't get back up." Unquote. So this is what Bullseye does in spare time, not business time.
As long as he doesn't run into Deadpool, everything should be fine.
Actually, Deadpool ran into him. It was a monster truck, after all. An executive editor at Marvel has been promoted to VP.
Who?
According to a press release dated January 4th, Marvel has announced that executive editor Nick Lowe has been promoted to the title of Vice President of Content, Digital Publishing for Marvel, effective immediately. He's going to continue his work as executive editor, but he's going to explore exciting new corners of the Marvel Universe through the Infinite Comics, Marvel's digital lineup, and he's going to further evolve the Marvel brand by crafting entirely unique original content beginning with Marvel's video comics, which recently premiered on Disney XD. So his story is to take Marvel's comics and turn them into something digital. It sounds difficult. I've seen motion comics before. Half the time it's just kind of flash animations added to stories and then thrown up on the TV screen. In my opinion, it's tough to make something like that interesting. However, if you want to speak about interesting, The Punisher is going to have a new miniseries. You know The Punisher, it's his mission to kill as many criminals as he possibly could, right? Well, this new miniseries from Fred Van Lente and artist Perez is going to ask the question, how do you kill someone who can regenerate from almost anything?
Going after Deadpool?
Yes, he is. According to the solicit, when the Punisher targets a mysterious criminal entrepreneur called The Bank, he runs afoul of the bank's trusted friend, Deadpool. Given that the pair already dislike each other, according to Van Lente, it's safe to say that their encounter will take a violent turn.
Yeah, that's a bit of an understatement.
Actually, I forgot. They know each other. They already know each other, personally. Want to know from where?
Where?
According to the writer Van Lente, quote, "They do not like each other, particularly from their Thunderbolts days on the same team together. Wade thinks Frank is a stick in the mud, while Frank thinks Wade's healing factor has made him loud, sloppy, and useless. It's a real peanut butter and chocolate situation. And you take that compare, contrast, and run with it. You put Deadpool in a gritty crime story and Frank in this kind of insane, manic world where Deadpool's adventures take place, and you let them try and shoot their way out of it, and at each other, unquote. Deadpool vs. the Punisher is scheduled to debut this April.
That
sounds like a fun read.
Yeah.
It sounds like it has potential. Speaking of potential, I flipped through. I haven't fully read yet the first issue of U.S. Avengers, and we found out more about the characters in it. Tony Ho is the daughter of Ho Yinsen. Ho Yinsen in the comic books was the person who helped Tony Stark put together his armor while he was being held captive and had heart trouble.
Huh, okay.
And she is the new Iron Patriot. Her armor has no lethal weaponry. She's made her armor for the work, not for killing. So it has augmented sensors and a force field to it.
Interesting.
And the Red Hulk is not Thunderbolt Ross. It's another guy.
Really?
Yeah, it's a General Maverick. General Robert L. Maverick. Apparently, when AIM, which is now America Idea Mechanics, was still Advanced Idea Mechanics, they developed a plugin that would allow someone to become a Hulk for limited periods. The problem is, it requires a pretty specific genetic backdrop to work on. Since they become America Idea Mechanics, they've perfected the plugin, and they found so far the one person it works with, General Maverick. The deal is, when he turns it on, he can be a Hulk for up to, I believe, 3 hours. Once those 3 hours are up, he cannot become a Hulk again for 36 hours. So he has to be kind of selective.
And there's no, turning it off and saving time. It's just once he activates it, he's got 3 hours and then 36.
That's what it appears to be for now, and then you have other members like Cannonball and Squirrel Girl who are pretty self-evident at this point. Sunspot is still running the whole thing, however, he has a new codename. He is the new Citizen 5, or Citizen V, which, as far as I know, was introduced in the original Thunderbolts run.
Mm.
And the Pod has been renamed to Enigma. She is now running in the undersuit that Pod had. From what I understand, it's like a callback to the zany comic book days of the 80s. Their first adventure, they were fighting against some weird empire who had a sky base that was a floating volcano, if that tells you anything.
Okay.
But the final issue is where we found out about Day Zero and the first image of Thanos with his cosmic cube gloves. At least that's what I think they are. Apparently some of the things they will run afoul of, or some of the things that may be on their team eventually, will be Deadpool and the American Kaiju.
American Kaiju?
American Kaiju. The American Kaiju is a soldier, I believe a corporal, that has the power to turn to a Godzilla-like monster with an America tattoo on its face.
Alright, looking up this guy. Todd Ziller.
Yep. There was also an image of a gravestone of one of the U.S. Avengers, Cannonball. He may die in upcoming issues. However, the second issue of the series will be in an interesting place because they get to meet Steve Rogers.
Fun.
Yeah. Which one, though? And Civil War has finally ended, and it's ended in a place that's kind of... It's one of those things, if you're looking for a singular event, it's not going to have an ending you'll like, because a lot of it bleeds into what Marvel plans to do in the future. Number one, Ulysses, the future-telling Inhuman, who's the crux of the story. He has ascended. And when I say ascended, he was invited to join the Cosmic Pantheon by Marvel's version of Eternity.
Huh.
So he is gone. Or at least off this plane.
Coughing. Who was that?
Tony Eternity.
Okay.
Eternity. Tony Stark is in a coma. And unfortunately, it seems like conventional things are not going to work because, as the Beast found out, Tony Stark has done some kind of genetic manipulation and experimentation on himself that he can't quantify as of yet. So he really doesn't want to do anything more invasive until he understands what's happened. So Tony Stark has been put into stasis for now. The crux of the story, as I understand it, though, is not necessarily that Tony Stark was against Captain Marvel using Ulysses to predict future crime. According to what the Beast has surmised, his problem was what would happen if Captain Marvel could no longer use Ulysses' powers. By that, what I mean is, what if Captain Marvel was either incapacitated retired or killed, and somebody else spearheaded the whole use of Ulysses' powers.
So weird what if in a very, I don't know.
It's a very sensible what if, though, because a lot of characters trust Carol Danvers to make decisions. The question is, what if somebody else makes those decisions? If Carol Danvers, as an agent of the government, is replaced, say by an incoming administration who decides they know somebody who has a better decision-making process than she does, what happens?
Yeah, what if they gave Steve Rogers access to Ulysses, thinking, oh, this will be perfect, and oh, shit, maybe not.
Exactly. Or even worse, what if instead of another superhero, they trust Ulysses' powers to a bureaucrat?
Right.
Somebody with another agenda. So Tony Stark wasn't fighting necessarily to defeat Carol Danvers. He was just fighting because he didn't trust anybody other than her. And how long can she live with this position? It's one of those tough morality questions that I know a lot of comic book fans are going to be unhappy with, but it's one of those things that's necessary to ask when you've got a story that's going to be an allegory for life. The Unstoppable Wasp, Nadia Pym, her series started this past week, and apparently she's going to be the upbeat character in Marvel. She's an eternal optimist, and she doesn't approach things as a superhero. She approaches them as a scientist first.
Okay.
Well, think about what the character's done so far. When she was introduced in All New Avengers, she appeared at Hank Pym's house, and she was told that he died protecting the Earth, and she cried for a few minutes, and then she turned Hank Pym's house into a lab and started working on the things necessary to make the world a better place. She does not slow down. And apparently she's a fangirl of scientists, not of other superheroes like Miss Marvel is.
Okay.
God, imagine what would happen if she ever met Reed Richards. And last up in Marvel Comics, Guardians of the Galaxy may be grounded on Earth, but they're losing a writer in addition. Brian Bendis is leaving the series. He announced that he is leaving the comic book title, and Marvel already has a new creative team in place to succeed him. Bendis also currently writes Spider-Man, Jessica Jones, Infamous Iron Man, and Invincible Iron Man.
That's a lot to write for.
Yeah, according to Bendis, who talked to Comic Book of his decision to leave the title, quote, "It was a couple of things. Number one, I had an end story that I've been building to, and it's time to unleash it. Number two, there were other projects offered to me that I was like, oh, I do want to do that, and something has to go. Even I have a bandwidth cap, and even though no one in Marvel thinks I do," unquote. If he's got stuff he wants to do, hey, it is what it is. The latest solicited issue that still has Bendis' name on it is Guardians of the Galaxy number 18, which is scheduled out March 15th of this year. I have DC Comic News, which is the other major publisher, and their stories upcoming for the next year. Unfortunately, I only have one story. Well, there were other things that came up, but often they were synopses to other things that just came out. And a little bit of hearsay, and you know how it is with me and rumors. I try to avoid rumors. DC President and Chief Creative Officer Jeff Johns, he apparently is going to be working on comic books again instead of just working on their cinematic universe or overseeing comics.
Okay.
He sent out a series of tweets in the early hours of 2017 on Sunday morning, a few of which inferred that he might be working on a few specific characters and possibly an upcoming event in DC. First of all, I will leave you with the image he sent. And I think the image will tell a lot about DC's future based on our prior stories.
I recognize that dot anywhere.
Yeah, that is Dr. Manhattan's forehead. According to the tweet, he said, quote, "And one, writing comics again. Stay tuned. Happy New Year," unquote. As we talked about before, it's been heavily implied that the Watchmen are responsible for the missing years in DC continuity recently. And as much as you would like to blame the whole group, there's really only one character in the Watchmen powerful enough to steal time.
Right.
So, of course, we're talking about Silk Spectre.
What, not the comedian?
No, we have the comedian.
Rorschach?
I totally pegged the comedian.
Rorschach. No, we're completely talking about Dr. Manhattan. Could pull names out of a hat all damn night. Unfortunately, Johns gave no further details on his comic book work, nor did he say specifically what title or events he's working on. However, I do remember that it was implied that the DC Rebirth would be an approximate 2-year plan leading up to an event, and if I remember correctly, we're starting into the 2nd year. So, I think we can all draw conclusions as to where he's going with this. Now we have general comic and convention news. That's where we talk about comic books that are not Marvel and DC related, as well as conventions happening all around the world. The last few shows we've had, we've talked about Wizard World and their issues. They have corrupt or inept officials at the top. They've recently come into some money so they can continue into at least 2017. And now news has come out that their ticket sales will no longer be handled internally. They've outsourced. They have now partnered with Front Gate Tickets, North America's leading festival ticketing platform, and they have a long-term partnership signed. They're going to do a full range of pre-sale and on-site ticketing services for all Wizard World shows, beginning with Wizard World Comic-Con in Portland from February 17th to February 19th, 2017. Fans will be able to purchase tickets for that event and 14 other subsequent Wizard World Comic-Cons in 2017. You know, it's one of those things where I don't quite know how to feel about it, because if they're having money issues, I guess I just don't know if Wizard World was inept at handling their own ticketing, or if this is just a waste of money. I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be that they're like, you know what, we trust an outside source more than our own people at this point.
That's not a good thing to...
Yeah, I haven't been to a Wizard World show now in about 5 years, and the cost of these shows have skyrocketed. Some of their tickets are more expensive than a 5-day pass to San Diego Comic-Con. Now, granted, those are VIP tickets that often include signing by a particular celebrity when you sign up for it, as well as a photo opportunity and like front row seats at a preferred panel. However, you really have to be into that particular celebrity to spend, approximately $250 extra on a single ticket, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially for a 3-day show. Phoenix Comic-Con is not one I recall us talking about. However, it bears talking about now. Not for a positive reason. Okay. From your experience, what do you guys have to do to volunteer at a convention?
Sign up.
Sign some waivers, and ask what to do.
Right. Does it generally cost you anything to be a volunteer? Not a staffer, volunteer.
No.
Okay. Phoenix Comic-Con is a parent company called Square Egg Entertainment, and they partnered up with what's called the Blue Ribbon Army. They're a fan club turned social group, whatever the hell that means. And the Blue Ribbon Army has registered as a non-profit. Okay? From now on, anyone that wants to volunteer as a staff member at Phoenix Comic-Con will have to become a paid member of the Blue Ribbon Army, and memberships of the Blue Ribbon Army start at $20 per year.
Okay. Why?
Don't ask me why. As part of this change, Phoenix Comic-Con also laid off 3 of its directors, including one who had been there since 2007. Matthew Solberg is now convention director of Phoenix Comic-Con. He told previous staffers in an email that they're implementing this new system because more and more volunteers were showing up to collect badges without doing the work, and there was no way to prevent it from happening again under the existing structure.
I get that.
I get that as well. However, there's a ton of other ways. Yeah, there's a ton of other ways to get people to actually show up to work. How about not give them badges until they do the work? How about not reimburse them for the cost of their badges till they finish a certain amount of work, instead of making everybody pay for badges that they've already worked for? This is...
Probably. Yeah.
In a word, stupid. The Blue Ribbon Army updated their membership form as an opportunity to apply for staff positions to an opportunity to accept staff positions, suggesting people can apply for volunteer positions before getting a membership.
Well,
however, neither Phoenix Comic-Con or the Blue Ribbon Army appear to have actual volunteer applications.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Wait, you're accepting, staff members, not volunteers.
Yep. So this, I think it's stupid. You're forcing someone to pay for something that most people are working for free. It's not like they're getting reimbursed those membership fees, I'm pretty sure. And there was a former director of Phoenix Comic-Con, Annabelle Martinez. She said she was banned from the convention and the Blue Ribbon Army's Facebook group for speaking out against volunteer changes. Solberg confirmed to Bleeding Cool of the banning, but said it was because she was being vindictive against him in Phoenix Comic-Con.
He said, she said.
Yeah.
Pretty much. However, considering the structure that we know is already in place, I'm going to side with her. I don't know where else to go with it, because I don't like to call things inherently stupid. However, that is inherently stupid. Even at San Diego Comic-Con, if you're lucky enough to be a volunteer, once you work the hours, you've earned your badge for the day. If they don't allow you to have your badge. They give you a badge so you can get in and volunteer, but they don't release you until you finish your requirements. Which is a smart way to go about it, and if you don't finish your requirements, they don't let you volunteer again. So sometimes the simpler systems are better. Why Phoenix Comic-Con decided, we won't let you volunteer unless you give us money?
Well, especially for a
what the
non-profit.
frick, man? Yeah, oh, man. I'm just going to have to let that go. I could spend hours on that rail. We spoke earlier about how Rob Liefeld is getting his own Extreme Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
I guess sort of in celebration of that, Image has signed up with Extreme Studios, and they are releasing new issues of Brigade and Bloodstrike. According to Liefeld to The Hollywood Reporter, quote, "I have a new Brigade series ready to go that I've been waiting to launch with Bloodstrike, and then we have an Extreme Anthology coming out. I'm not going to flood the market. We'll do selective stories, selective arcs, and then at the end of the year, we'll be collecting the material. We're going to collect the original stories for the first time as well," unquote. So that makes it sound like the original volumes of Brigade and Bloodstrike might actually be collected for graphic novels. It's not the first time, though, that Liefeld has discussed bringing back both Brigade and Bloodstrike. He did a Kickstarter for Brigade several years ago, and he mentioned in interview plans that he wants the titles to return. I don't know. Would you? I'm asking a serious question. Would you read new stories of Brigade and Bloodstrike?
Possibly.
Because there's also a possibility of them releasing colored versions of an original series he had during Awesome Comics called Rejects. R-E-G-E-X. And I have never heard of this series, probably because I wasn't following Liefeld when he went independent. And judging by the cover of Rejects, I can see why I didn't follow this series. It looks like Evangeline and something that looks like a ripoff of Magic from the New Mutants in a bikini. And Gene Simmons' boobs.
Yeah, you're muted.
This does not make me want to read comics.
Yeah, the teenager in me would have... Yeah. Teenage me would have looked at this like, wow, but never would have picked it up.
I'm wondering how the chick on the right even uses those weapons with all the freaking cracks and everything in them. Oh, the one on the left is also pretty bad on the weapon.
By cracks, I assume you mean in the sword and not the one that currently has a thong stuck in
thongs.
It. Okay. Independent publisher Alterna Comics, they're launching a new line of comics where it will be single issues printed in newsprint. How long? Yeah, it's been a while. I don't think I've felt newsprint between my fingertips, in comic books at least, since like 1991. But that also comes with reduced cost. They're going to retail their issues for $1.99 or less per issue.
Cheaper material, so
that it uses less ink.
Court
doesn't survive.
Yeah, but it also
well
doesn't hold ink as well. According to Alterna Comics publisher Peter Cimetti, quote, "When I fell in love with comics, it was an entire experience. The stories, the imagery, and the paper. There was almost nothing else like reading a comic book. It was a fragile thing, but durable at the same time. Printed on newsprint with a thin but glossy cover, you could roll the comic, not that you necessarily want to, and they were lightweight and had a floppy feel. The smell and the feel of the pages is something that no longer occurs on the new comic book day release at Wall, yet it's prevalent in back issue bins across the country. Our goal is to create a comic book that would feel just like it came out of a shop from 30 years ago.
I like that idea.
I like the idea, however, it's like he said, they were more fragile, so it's not like they kept as well. The idea has merit, but it has detractions as well. Valiant Comics is getting bold. Mm-hmm. We've talked about how they're getting a cinematic universe soon, and they launch Exo. To a press release that was released this past January 4th, Exo Manowar is going to become a cornerstone of their universe. Get this. Quote, Valiant is proud to announce that beginning March 22nd with the release of the all-new Exo War Manowar number 1, the fourth Wednesday of every month will be officially Exo Manowar Wednesday. A consistent monthly on-sale date that will include the latest issue of Exo Manowar alongside a brand new launch title, Jumping On Point, or key issue arriving from the best reviewed publisher in comics. Across each and every fourth Wednesday in 2017, Valiant will now be giving fans at least 2 reasons to visit their local comic book shop, beginning with the most important title of the year, Exo Manowar number 1, arriving in stores on March 22nd, right next to Bloodshot Reborn number 0. Mm-hmm. This sounds ambitious as hell, but it's a decent idea. You know, Exo Manowar is definitely about the most recognizable thing they have in their current universe. And to use that as a focus point for, or at least a reason to bring people into stores to read other issues, it's a pretty smart idea. The question is whether or not they'll actually pick up those other issues. But one of the best reviewed comic books of 2016 is a Valiant story, and it's coming back for 2017. Peter Milligan, Juan Jose Rip, and Jordi Bayer's Britannia is coming back. It's going to have a second run this year, and like the initial run, Britannia, with the subtitle We Who Are About to Die, it's going to be a 4-part miniseries printed as part of Valiant's prestige range of premium printed comics. Milligan and Rip are back on in the series. Now they're being joined by colorist Frankie D'Armata, who will follow Rome's first detective, Antonius Axia, on another mystery, one that's going to see his tenuous faith in the gods explored when a bizarre curse affecting the populace of Rome, of Rome's elite status, starts driving citizens mad with visions of a blood-soaked Apollo. That's... I didn't know they got him off of Battlestar Galactica. It was right there. Greg Rucka and Nicola Scott, they put their creator-owned series Black Magic on hiatus to relaunch Wonder Woman for Rebirth. Now that Scott's tenure on the book is over, the duo are planning to return to their Image Comics creator-owned series. They originally announced as returning in April with new issues. Rucka has now stated that they're delaying it to June in order for the next arc to be released monthly without skip months. Black Magic originally launched in October of 2015 with the first collected edition going on sale this coming April. Hey, if he's delaying it just for the fact of continuity, I have no issue with this. That's probably a smart thing to do. As a matter of fact, our subject of the week, Saga, that was actually in the news this past break we had. Yeah, the Saga series was delayed due to a print error. According to the press release by Image Comics, due to printer error, they're reprinting Saga number 41 in time for it to hit shelves on the adjusted release date of January 4th, 2017. I wonder what the error was. Well, according to Eric Stephenson, he's a publisher at Image Comics, quote, bumping any title is a disappointment, but Saga shipped on time every issue up to this point, and being forced to delay this one was an incredibly difficult decision. Unfortunately, while delaying the book for a week tarnishes our on-time shipping record, selling Saga number 41 as it was originally printed would have negatively impacted the quality of one of the best comics on the market. Not everything can be perfect, but in this case, the difference was between the files submitted to the printer and the book that was printed were so great, we simply could not let the book go as is, unquote. And, okay, I see the problem. The problem was actually in issue number 41's cover. And if you take a look, they have really good reasons for this delay. The original version that they printed out was much darker than what they wanted to release.
Whoa.
Take a look at the side-by-side. I mean, it's just the black level that was adjusted, but it changes the nature of that cover a lot. You know, one almost looks like they were attacked in the dark, the other one looks like they were attacked in a room. I don't know, though. I kind of want the one on the left.
Yeah,
it has
but
a
it
more
kinda
noirish feel to it.
I mean, if you're familiar with the comics, you can pretty much figure out who the characters are, but I would reduce the black levels in the back so that you could more easily recognize, the female character whose name I can't remember after I just read it yesterday. But
I'll let that go. I'm just saying what I prefer as a matter of aesthetic. I'm not talking about much beyond my personal standpoint.
yeah,
There's something about me that likes the darker color, but I get why they needed it changed. There's a new series that is coming out. Brian Wood is spearheading a new comic book title based on a 1980 series. It's going to debut 2017 from Titan Comics. It's being described as full of surprises by the animation company that owns the rights. Titan Comics has not released any details, but in 2017 a new Robotech series is coming. According to Tommy Yoon, Harmony Gold's USA's president, quote, "We are excited to have the opportunity to work with Brian to expand the Robotech universe. His bold approach to storytelling is thoughtful and will be full of surprises for our fans."
So it'll be original work.
No other details have been released at this time.
and I believe from the cover that I've seen,
it is new Robotech stories.
Rick Hunter and whatnot.
Well, I don't know. No cover's been
okay.
released. They released a promo image with it, but it looks like it came from another comic book run. And lastly, in general comic book news, I have talked to you guys about my interest in the movies of John Wick. I think the first one was much better than people thought it would be.
I haven't seen
the second one. Comes out. The second film comes out relatively soon. I have not seen it, but I look forward to it. According to Entertainment Weekly, Dynamite Comics has picked up the license for a new John Wick series. According to CEO Nick Barucci, quote, "John Wick was such an exciting film, mixing martial arts and action with snappy dialogue and smart writing. As the credits rolled, you were left wanting more, and it was obvious they had the makings of a franchise. We were quick to pursue the opportunity to develop a comic book series, and are thrilled to have been granted the rights to tell all new stories with the character," unquote. No creative team has been announced. No release date beyond 2017 has been given as of yet. And I want to give you guys an example here. This is a promo image, I believe, from John Wick number 2. It's very obvious it's Keanu Reeves at the title role surrounded by a bunch of guns, right? Now, apparently, these are the first images of the tests from whoever is putting together the John Wick comic. Whoever the artist is, but he did a pretty good job of approximating him without getting too close. It's one of those things where it looks a lot like Keanu Reeves, but it leaves it just open enough to interpretation. It's a nice balance between imagination and, I guess you could say, transposition skills. I'm actually curious to flip through a couple issues of this. I'd like to see what they developed. And last up is our WTF Corner. That's where we find the stories from across the internet that just make you say, "Thank God 2016 is dead." I have another story that proves that too many people on the internet, when they get together, they create stupidity.
Oh.
Well, it's still being proved. Hallmark is in trouble now.
Oh, God.
Yeah, a bunch of fans of Yuri on Ice, the anime about probably the first major anime or the first popular anime that involves a homosexual storyline. They got together because they found out Hallmark is putting out a new movie called Love on Ice. The subject matter of Love on Ice, the Hallmark film, is that a former Olympic skater, a woman, falls in love with her male coach. According to the description, quote, "Former figure skating champion gets an improbable shot to reclaim skating glory when a young coach sees greatness in her. Together they find their love of skating goes far beyond the ice," unquote. Now, the anime Yuri on Ice obviously has been out for a while. It's finished its season. And the storyline is incredibly similar, except for the fact that both the protagonist and the love interest are both gay in this series. Well, if not originally gay, heavily implied, right? People freaked out for all the wrong reasons. Because, number one, the IMDb page for Love on Ice, the supposed copy material, has been in existence since August of 2015. So they've been working on it since before the anime came out. Second, this movie, Love on Ice, is actually based on a novel that was published way back in 2009. And yet, none of these facts deterred anybody because there is a Change.org petition that, as of the middle of this week, it already garnered over 3,600 signatures in 2 days to have this movie taken down. It's not even the first love story I've heard of like this. I saw a movie a long time ago about an Olympic figure skater and a hockey skater being trained who fell in love. This is not new.
And the Hallmark
this is not new at all. And
the
petition has been delivered to the Hallmark Channel. Well, the person who wrote the petition has claimed victory, posting on the Change.org petition, quote, "In the end, I got a response from Kubo, and I'm very glad that I did. We raised awareness and addressed the situation. Thank you, everyone," unquote. So they did what ridiculous people often do and claim victory, even though they have no victory, because the creator of Yuri on Ice, Mitsuro Kubo, has said on Twitter, quote, "With more evidence I received, I don't believe that."
A copy of his...
unquote. In other words, the creator of Yuri on Ice does not believe Love on Ice is a copy after investigating the matter, which is really all anyone should have done first, is investigate the matter before freaking out.
Yeah.
So these Change.org people,
this is people
or the
going,
people that signed this petition,
I got a response from the guy that wrote the thing that I
here's
liked.
your sign.
I'm satisfied.
Well, how would you like to hear about dumbassery of a different sort?
Okay, not too far from Japan.
We have to go to China for this story.
Oh, God.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, a Chinese man needed firemen to help free his member from something.
What?
Have you ever heard of a steel penis trap?
This sounds like some medieval torture device.
A steel penis trap. This was news to me as well. I had not heard of this. Apparently it's I know, it sounds like something wives use when guys do something incredibly stupid. Apparently it is a masturbatory tool. I don't know how this works, and all the videos and pictures involving it, thankfully, are blurred. But the story is not because he used the device. The story is because of what happened after he used the device. He must have used it a little too well, because apparently the issue happened that he fell asleep with this thing still clamped on his genitals.
Swelling?
He woke up later to find out he could not remove it.
I mean, if it does what I think it does, just by the name, he would have some severe blood flow issues.
Which would cause swelling.
Oh, God,
afterwards. The vessels could not move the
deoxygenated
deoxygenated blood away. Yes, that's what we're talking about. So he had to call the local fire department. The firemen appeared unusually used to such types of things because they came prepared with tools, initially attempting to snap the ring of the trap with pliers. They were well prepared for the situation for some reason.
Oh, God.
But that did not work, so eventually they broke out the rotating saw. That is not a joke. They broke out the rotating saw.
I'm assuming it's like one of those little metal sander ones, not like a full-on fucking,
I hope it's not a fire saw, frankly. But all I can say is that I guess this steel trap, as much trouble as they had removing it, definitely wasn't made in China. Oh, somebody knew how to put this thing together. Other than that, I don't care.
Okay.
A man has had to turn in his nutcracker to police. He's been using it for 25 years. Okay, he received it as a gift from a friend back in 1991. He's been using this nutcracker since then. I don't know who told him he needed to turn it into police, but I'm certainly glad he did. Here's an image of the Chinese-grade nutcracker for you to take a look at.
That what?
Okay, it looks like a mortar and pestle type grinder.
That is a 1960s era stick grenade. Apparently, how the man found out he might be in trouble with his nutcracker was that he found a safety leaflet regarding explosives. And his nutcracker oddly resembled a stick grenade in the leaflet. So he called police to take a quick look at this thing and make sure if it's, still explodey or not. The police right now would like to know whether or not his friend was aware he was giving his buddy a stick grenade.
Yeah.
Further investigations are likely to occur. I can't tell if somebody.
I mean,
liked him or
honestly, if you
hated him,
removed
frankly.
the explosives and whatnot, and it could be a cool novelty piece. Obviously, nothing untoward ended up happening, but yeah, God.
Thank goodness. But, it is what it is. Japan, I have a Japan WTF for you, though. In the Resident Evil 7 demo, one of the biggest mysteries involving
zombie
was
finger.
a severed
It was
zombie finger.
Wooden finger.
Nobody seemed to quite know what...
Or mannequin finger.
Okay,
Something.
wooden finger. All right. Well, the thing is, to commemorate Resident Evil's 20th anniversary, which is known as Biohazard in Japan, they've decided to take this wooden finger and turn it into a pen. A sellable pen. A nice little commemorative gift you can give just about anybody. It's small, it's manageable. Somebody really should have taken a second look at this thing before release because it looks like a mangled penis. It looks like somebody's hot dog was a little too close to the fire. Do you know how much this thing is?
$180.
It was handed out as a souvenir for Japan's... It was part of GameStop's exclusive collector's edition. It was also handed out for free as part of the Biohazard Ambassador program in Japan. And those knuckles actually bend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do not want. Also functions as a USB drive. Boy, I don't want that sticking on my computer. You can keep that out of my I.O. port.
Surprised they didn't include vibration functions.
Well, I have 3 more WTF stories for you.
Okay.
Just due to time, I think we'll skip out of context D&D this week. Unfortunately, sometimes during Christmas, we find stories of people who get what they don't deserve. A mother in Westchester, Ohio, bought her 7-year-old daughter a copy of a video game for Christmas, Splatoon. A shooter, non-violent for the Wii U. It's gotten high regards by just about everybody that's played it. Sounds like a great thing for a 7-year-old. When the 7-year-old opened the package, on the disc it said Sensual Seductions 2. And took that disc. I kid you not. The mother bought this game from a Target. For some reason, in the package was a porn DVD. According to the mother, quote, I had to explain to her a little bit that Santa's elves don't make the video games. They actually get them from the real stores, and it had been a mix-up that Santa didn't know about. The mother, Christy Grader, she took the game box and disc in question back to Target. She received a gift card for the value of the game from a Target representative. She is not satisfied because she would like to know how it happened, and she wants to make sure it goes up the flagpole and Nintendo is made aware of it. Which is, unfortunately, a reasonable request, simply because if the game was actually sealed and received from Nintendo, this came from the top. Target was nice enough to do something for her so she could get the game still, but it's not Target's responsibility to make sure that the video games they receive are actually still video games. That's up to Nintendo to make sure. A representative from Target has responded to the Kotaku story that they've never intended to offend any of their guests, and they're aware of the incident, and they've been in direct contact with the guest. No. That's all well and good, but again, this is not necessarily a Target problem.
Did all the packaging?
Who packaged the game? Yeah, it might have been a third party outside Nintendo who got a couple of their orders screwed up, but that's. I'm not thinking about the hilarity of a porn DVD. I'm more thinking about that poor 7-year-old girl. Thank goodness she never put that in her Wii U. The subject of this week is Saga, Volume 1, which I believe covers issues 1 through 5, or 1 through 6. I want to say 1 through 5. It was 166 pages, so I'm pretty confident that 1 through 5. This is a story that on the surface sounds pretty typical. People from 2 warring factions come together to find love, have a child, and then they're being hunted by the 2 warring factions. But the premise is about the only thing that's really simple about this book. The original story is by Brian K. Vaughn. The art is by Fiona Staples. the lettering was done by Phonographics, and the coordinator's Eric Stephenson. This is an Image Comics series, and once you get past the simple nature of the story, this is a really good book.
I really enjoyed it.
I mean, in 5 or 6 issues, there wasn't a whole lot of story that was revealed in Volume 1.
It was a good teaser.
But it's a good teaser, but at the same time, the real strength of this book so far has been very strong characterization. They are taking their sweet time to really introduce these characters in full to you, while still leaving enough of their backgrounds a mystery that sometimes when somebody utters, often the characters in the book turn to the same person and go, "What are you talking about?"
What did you just do?
Pretty much. I mean, the book was a pleasant surprise, but it doesn't really spend time in the whole they met each other phase. I mean, the very first page is the woman of the story giving birth.
Right.
I mean, we're starting technically in the middle of a lot of these stories.
I love that it's narrated by the child that is about to be born.
Yeah, narrated by the eventual baby, which is both interesting and a little bit odd. Because it sounds like she's going to be okay in the future, but for all I know, they're American Beautying it, and she's just telling the story from the end of her life.
Right.
So the main characters are Marco and Alana, and it's... I was going to say which side they came from, but I guess from my viewpoint, just reading what's happened so far, there is no real good or bad side in this.
No.
You just have two...
Yeah, it's Planet Side and Moonies.
Well, it's galaxy-wide. It all appears to stem originally from a single planet, and their war has stretched across their known galaxy.
As they make mention of in the story, it was basically, if they kept fighting, they would have destroyed the places that they came from, so they outsourced it.
Right. But I was going to say that this is kind of a galactic version of the Hatfields and the McCoys. It seems like everyone's fighting, but for unknown reasons.
Right. You don't know what the original cause was. I don't even know if they care.
I think at this point, they're probably just so used to fighting, they have no idea what to do other than annihilate each other.
Right.
I want to use allegories that are more earthborn, but anything I say is going to be construed as racist and stupid, so I'm biting my tongue on that. But there is a lot of terrestrial conflicts that kind of mirror this what's going on here. And some of the beings they introduce here, this robotic race with televisions for heads.
Yeah. I got a real flashback to Fully Gully.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one. Because I felt that all throughout, except these things are vocal somehow, despite not having anything resembling a face. It's like an old CRT television for a head. I did like the character design throughout. There were obvious differences between a lot of the races, and everybody acted in pretty unique ways. If I had a favorite character design, it was a design that I both loved and was horrified by. The Stalk.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have to say, other than the two, parents, the babysitter, and just like I was like, man, they just went all out as far as like shock value.
Yeah, you mean Isabel, the half ghost?
Yeah.
The idea behind that was really brilliant to me as their weird planetary defense mechanism that was never really tested against genocide. Their whole race turns into spiritual ghosts to protect their planet as they die, but nobody really thought about what would happen if they just killed everybody at once.
Well, they didn't kill everybody at once, but...
fast enough, though.
Yeah.
Where their presence didn't really matter. The forms of combat in this story are also pretty interesting. It's this real kind of clash between sword and sorcery versus technology, and neither side has a clear advantage.
Yeah, very lethal both ways.
Yeah. And everything creates holes or sections of people. It is really hard to get into details on this simply because the story unfolded very slowly, but as slow as it was, I actually enjoyed the pace.
Mm-hmm.
They took their time allowing you to get used to every character that they're introducing. The way they introduced the weird prince and his princess, I could have done without.
Yeah.
The two robots with TV heads doing it doggy style in the middle of the Imperial bed.
There's an image for you guys.
Yeah. that was one of those cases where when I flipped the page, when you first flip the page and the first word is deeper, I'm like, huh, I wonder what that's ever going to look like. Then I flip the page, it's like, I don't need to know what that looks like. I really thought they'd leave that up to me. Did anybody else find that a little jarring?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just like, okay, the whole breast reveal with the breastfeeding and whatnot. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Then they go to deeper and it's just like, oh.
Yeah, we're not going to sit on innuendo. We're just going to show you precisely what they're doing. I mean, it's one of those things that's not unprecedented in comic books, but it's not something I was expecting in the first issue of the story.
Yeah. Yeah, they kind of said, yeah, no, we really don't care about censorship.
Yeah, so we find out that Alana was a guard in the prison that held her eventual husband. I wonder how long they knew each other before they ran away together.
It said in the actual story it was literally almost, or at least as far as when he was captured to when they escaped, it was literally like overnight.
Huh. So how'd she get pregnant?
I think they'd been on the run for a while.
Oh, I see. Okay. That wasn't very clearly delineated, but then again, it was just a short briefing between an intelligence officer and this TV-headed prince.
Right.
The whole thing is flippant. I would like to know why everyone is so interested in the baby, though. Everybody seems to have, or both sides seem to have specific purposes for wanting the baby, but neither side so far has said what that purpose could possibly be. I would think in most occurrences, such babies are frowned upon and probably destroyed pretty quickly.
Well, they said that in the rape camps, the children usually die either before term or shortly after birth. Yeah, I can't believe I just used that word, rape camp. Anyway.
You did just throw that out there pretty flippantly.
Well, but that's what they basically said, so... But in any case, the fact that I have no idea what her background is. I mean, she doesn't seem very high up as far as command and everything goes, but
no, from what I
gathered from him and his backstory, especially at the last chapter, he seems to be a little bit high up in the hierarchy of the Moonies.
Prince or nobility?
I would say possible nobility or extremely wealthy.
Well, his girlfriend was very wealthy. His family seems to be highly capable at the very least.
Whenever they start, I don't know, in my experience, whenever people start talking about, oh, this weapon has been in the family for generations, that's usually nobility.
Or it could be something hereditary. I mean, we saw similar stories way back with Record of the Lotus Wars.
True.
Harn had a hereditary weapon, but his family, other than a couple knights, was pretty lowborn. Early on in this story, though, we were introduced to, I guess, this Saga's version of Han Solo, the Will.
He's still a mystery.
He's a big enigma so far. Because he has no qualms about killing anything and everything, but it appears there are still places where his personal code of morals will not allow him to go.
Right.
You know,
like a 6-year-old sex slave.
Yes. Yeah, I can't think of the proper words.
Disgusting?
No, statutory.
Oh,
statutory is not in his makeup.
No.
Which is not a bad thing, but it's just when everything else is possible for him, including killing children and babies,
right,
is necessary.
Because he did ask if they wanted him to off the child of the two people that he's supposed to be hunting down, Alana and Marco. So he's perfectly fine killing the girl.
But having sex with it is a no-no.
No, yeah.
I know people who have those kinds of disconnects, and I always have issues with that when your morality will allow you to perfectly end the life of an absolute innocent, but not maim it. It's this weird dichotomy that I can't understand in my own mind.
Yeah.
You know, to me, if you can't do one, you shouldn't be able to do the other. However, his partner, the lying cat,
that is
that
a very
blue hairless cat,
very interesting animal. Except that I can't even really conscientiously refer to it as an animal because it is obviously intelligent.
Well, we think it is. I don't know how much of its powers are mystical or how much of it is cognitive.
I don't know, but it understands speech. It can't say anything other than lying that we've seen so far. But God, when he makes it to that pleasure planet, and he's just like, well, if you're going, since you're going back to the ship, take my stuff with you. And the look on its face from that was just.
Well, that's the part that I don't understand, though. I mean, a lot of animals here on Earth have the approximate intelligence of 5-year-olds. They can understand basic instructions and everything, even though they can't speak. So I wonder how much of its abilities are intelligence-born or psychic-born or some other kind of influence. You know, if it's psychic-born, then yeah, it could pretty easily tell when someone's lying, or is it more intuitive? You know what I mean? Is it actually just reading a person and determining itself whether or not someone is lying? I don't know the mechanics of how its abilities work.
Yeah, I guess it's not really important to the story at this point.
Oh, it's not important, but it's still a curiosity to me. How does this cat freaking work? You know, is it just a companion, or is it more of a purposeful partner?
Given the way that the stock talked about it, it does seem more like a partner.
Yeah, I guess I just need to know more about how it works before I can make a full opinion on their relationship. I did have trouble trying to figure out, though. The Will was definitely in love with the stock. I was trying to figure out how mechanically that worked.
I gave up about a second after contemplating it. I was just like, I probably don't want the answer to that question.
You know, the second part of this story, when Marco and Alana are trapped in vines on the planet,
God.
He needs to do a spell to get it out, but he needs an absolute.
Needs the secret.
Yeah, he needs an absolute secret. And Alana reveals the secret that she enjoys the taste of her own breast milk. He finishes the spell, and all he can think is, as soon as he gets up, is just, what did you mean?
No, it's just a really? How did you even, when did you even, she's like, oh, she spit up in my mouth, and I was just like, oh, that just adds even further, oh.
Well, a baby's digestive system doesn't digest much.
Yeah, but really, you like the taste of not just your own breast milk, but the spit up breast milk. I was just like, wow.
Yeah, that took a bit for me to get through myself. I mean, in the middle of the second issue was the reveal of what the stock is. And the stock is not as complicated as it make it sound, but I mean, it is basically an armless Dryden.
Yeah.
You know, she has the torso of a woman, no actual arms like a person, because the lower half of her is spider, 8 legs and all.
But she actually has shoulders, which makes me then wonder, were her actual human arms removed at some point?
I don't know. The fact that she only covers like her lower body in a skirt just makes her even more mysterious.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was obviously to hide the fact that she had those spider legs and the various weaponry contained therein.
Yeah, what was the thing she held at the lowest? I see the axe there. What is? It looks like an empty sword hilt she's carrying in her hand. Or
I assumed it was like a
torch,
I assumed it was like a lightsaber or something. She never ignited it or used it, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I would like to know what it is. I was surprised when she died.
Oh
so early
God,
in the
that was
story. That was sudden.
Well, and I just loved how it ended up going down, because it seemed so very human. You know that. Oh, she's going for something. You know, and in all likelihood, she was reaching for her license as a.
Or a number of other things that could be under that skirt, but no, the response of the prince was, "Look out, Ned! She's coming straight for us!"
Blow a hole in her. And then just immediately declares it as a justified shooting and whatnot, when she was talking on the phone to the Will.
Yeah, and I will say it plainly, though, the idea of this thing coming at me with, one hand with a revolver, 2 hands have a shotgun, 1 hand has a knife, 1 hand with this strange item, and another hand with an axe, while it's still coming forward, I'd be dead and I'd be a smelly corpse, because I would peed and pooped myself like multiple times over.
Yeah, she was quite the image.
But Alana's stopping the stock cold because everybody wants this baby alive, and she's just holding a gun to its forehead because she's not going to allow her child to be taken from her. That was one of those moments where, as hardcore as it was, I was emotionally mixed about it.
Well, even the stock was pretty like, damn, girl.
I mean, it's hard to get into the rest of this because, again, the story folded very unslowly. It'll only take about 5-10 minutes to unload everything we saw. Saga is one of those stories where the devil's in the details. They spent a long time trying to, it looks like, mold these characters and not as archetypes, one-offs, or even the sense that any one of them is going to be around for a given amount of time. When the stock died as early as she did, that was a sign to me all of these characters are potentially on the block. You know, anyone could be executed like George R.R. Martin style just because it would be a surprise. Not shocking, but just because you would sit there and go, already?
Or, really? I didn't expect that one.
Yeah. So I guess that's probably the biggest enjoyment of Saga is that anything is possible at any given page.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, I still wasn't entirely sure that, like, you know, one or both of her parents were even going to make it off the planet for a while there.
Mm-hmm.
The world itself seems a bit whimsical. You know, it's definitely gritty and you know, the galactic war and everything else going on, but the actual like the spaceship plant, you know, or tree, and the, you know, as horrifying as the you know, planetary defense was, you know, people doomed to haunting their dying world, you know, as a protection and so forth. But at the same time, you know, just the uniqueness of it was very unexpected.
Speaking of uniqueness, the 4th issue of this story, or maybe the 3rd, it's hard to tell when they're in collected volumes like this, the Will's trip to Sextillion was nightmare fuel. When he was greeted by those gigantic talking heads with the stalk legs, I almost had to close the book for a while, because digesting that image was very difficult for me.
I almost think that I have seen that image somewhere before, though, and I cannot remember where, and I didn't really try to think about it too hard, but...
It's the combination of everything. The gigantic heads, the huge smiles, the lack of appendages other than the legs, and how spindly the legs are. All that together are hitting these spots in my brain that tells me this does not work.
No, my mind was like, how does this work on this sex planet? I almost broke myself.
You know, I didn't need to know anymore. I nearly closed it after that. However, the scenes of the Will walking through this place were not more mundane, but I guess it was more of what I would picture from an intergalactic world meant for nothing but prostitution. It was weird. It was like Amsterdam on the worst acid ever.
I would not be comfortable in that place at all.
I think I'd be comfortable there for about 5 minutes, but then I have to turn around because somebody's doing something really
and then
odd.
the fact where the guy walks up and he's just like, "Oh, this is too tame for you. Here, you know, I will show you, you know." And I'm just like, "This is tame? Oh my!"
Yeah. I also wonder what the Will does when he's working, because you notice at that scene, the back of his cloak, there's a cowl attached to it.
I just noticed that.
So it makes me wonder how he dresses when he's actually...
Is that a bullet hole in the cowl, too?
It does look like there's a couple... It looks like that cowl is well used. It was always tattered from every scene, but... Or I should say the cape, but the cowl itself looks well used.
I do find it interesting from the standpoint of the narration, how, you know, obviously the Will's part in this story is not even close to being done.
Doesn't sound heroic by the narration either.
I mean, I would think that he would have more inclination to go after, you know, for the prince because he killed the stock, but yet he seems to have focused whatever ends up happening onto the family. So that's an interesting projection there.
That's also why I like the Will, but I don't understand the Will, because it seems to him that kids matter a lot. but he still has no quandaries about killing them.
His remark to the Lion Cat was, what kind of assholes bring a child into this world? So obviously he's very jaded as far as what you have to do to survive and so forth, and I think he's actually looking at it more as a kindness to kill it before it becomes aware. That's my assumption, though.
It just seems odd. It is hard to get into a lot of the details of the stories because I don't think this is something that comes across well in reviews.
Yeah,
I think
it's
must
definitely
be read.
a very unique story.
Which, again, starts from humble beginnings, but once you get past the base storyline...
I mean, honestly, it started off, just immediately, you kind of had the humor, and you kind of saw that, and then immediately, just, boom, they're being threatened, and this and that. It did have its highs and lows as far as the story went. It could... Mm-hmm. The pacing was very good in just the type of story that it was trying to tell, because you never really knew if it was going to be fast or if it was going to be slow, just depending on where it was in the story. So I did like the
the arts.
Yeah, I did. I was just going to say I did like the pacing and the story overall.
I was going to say the art style really matches the story very well. It's this weird kind of cross between sci-fi and noir throughout everything we've seen so far, where if it wasn't for the mystic swords, this could easily be mistaken for some kind of
I was actually
thriller.
not entirely sure I was going to like the story just due to the art right at first, but then once I got into the story, it matched so well that I didn't have a problem with it.
And I will say as one of the closing things here, as much as we haven't said a whole lot about the story details, if you're above the age of, 16, this is almost a must-have as a comic book fan.
Well, I was just going to say,
what?
It's definitely not your typical story. It's going to give you some surprises, and I don't know. I mean, I would have liked to have read this when I was, growing up more than I probably do now, but I'm still interested in reading it.
Well, this is not for the cape and cowl set. If you're a fan of Marvel and DC, this may not mind a little pliable when you pick up the book. However, if you are looking for a bridge for your friends that are anime fans who might be interested in comic books, this is good.
Yeah.
This is very good. And, honestly, it was one of those cases where when I picked up the first volume to read for this story, I wasn't sure how much I'd like it, because Saga has been well hyped in independent circles and a lot of reviewing circles, so I was kind of afraid that the hype would overdo. And I had this thing that's 160 some odd pages to read for the show.
That was intimidating.
Yeah, it was intimidating to look at, but I read it in an evening, one evening. It was one of those cases where I thought, okay, I'll read the first part of this and put it down, but as soon as I finished the first part, I'm like, wow. So I read the second part to find out where that went, and I'm like, wow, that was cool. I read the third part because it finished up with a couple of extra aspects from the fourth part, and then from the second part. Then I found out the fourth part had to do with the will. It's like, oh, I gotta read this, and it keeps building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it took me about 2 hours to read. I was again, it didn't grab me as much as you guys. Yeah, I want to continue because it keeps leaving me on cliffhangers. It's all right, what's next? What's this? Come on.
Well, like I said, it's not necessarily for superhero fans, but it's a good book that, despite a lot of adult themes, connects on a lot of different levels, and it feels like it could belong to a whole lot of different fandoms at once.
Yeah.
People who are interested in sci-fi stories, this is good. People who are interested in epics, I think, from what I've read so far, I think that's where it leads to. People who are interested in love stories, it may not sound like it, but this is a very deep love story of both interpersonal and familial. And people who like scoundrels, boy, they're all throughout this book. People who like political stuff, man, it's way throughout this book. People who like surprises, it's in this book. You basically have everything but spandex in this story.
I'm waiting for them to bring something like that in.
And it almost wouldn't be surprising if Captain Carrot came flaming across the sky and ended up shot down 3 panels later. So, I mean, it's... Like I said, it's very adult-themed. You cannot give this to children by any stretch of the imagination.
No. God, no.
But if you know adult friends who are curious about comic books, or even adult comic book fans who haven't heard of this story, this is a really good one. And it's not it's not a complicated concept, but it's a very complicated execution, and that makes it way above, in my opinion. So I would give this to a ton of different people who ask me questions. You guys have anything to add?
Read Saga. Give it a try.
I stay mostly quiet out of this because, again, this didn't catch me as much as you guys did. But I respect. I totally agree with your points. Pacing was good. Characters were really being developed. I can see that right away. But it's just not a story that kind of catches me myself. But I would definitely hand this to some people who are into this kind of stuff for various reasons.
Okay. Well, I think that's about it. Let me see. Next week we'll read the first volume of the Tenenchi Coates Black Panther series. I've been waiting for that to get collected so I can find out how the story flows in a longer term.
Yeah.
And especially since, ethnic superheroes are usually such difficult writings, I'm kind of excited to see how the latest version of it has come across. Or do you guys have any suggestions instead?
No, actually, I've been rather curious about this one too.
All right. So next week it'll be the Black Panther, and then I believe the weekend after that we have other. No, or is there one more? Gosh, I'm losing track of time now. What is today? The 7th?
7th.
Yeah, today's the 7th.
Okay, we record this on the 7th, so then it's the 14th. Okay, then that means after the Black Panther we have room for one more show before we're off for Anime Los Angeles. God, our calendar's already getting complicated. Thank you very much for tuning in. I invite you to roll us again next week. Have a great one. I am Jeremy.
Steve.
And Jesse.
Don't drink and drive. Take care, everybody.